Let's talk about the human soul. I think it's the most important subject we could ever explore. It certainly has been the most important topic in my life. When I began to look at life within the context of my understandings about the human soul, everything changed. The way I move through life, how I experience what's coming at me from life, how I choose to be what I choose to be, how I choose to do what I choose to do, everything really about my life changed dramatically when I created a new context within which I would consider life itself, and included in that context my thoughts about, my understandings of, my awareness around this matter of the human soul. We, I think, deprive ourselves of an enormous resource if we ignore and do not take a close look at the question of the human soul and what is it? Where is it? How does it work? What's its function? What's its purpose? What are the mechanics by which it produces the outcomes for which it yearns? I have to tell you that there's no school that I was aware of as it was a child that taught this. Even though I went to a parochial school as a child, I went to a Catholic parochial school. But nothing that was given to us in that setting told us specifically about the human soul. And outside of the context of a religious teaching or a parochial school, I'm not sure where anybody would get this information. I suppose there are some places, some monasteries or monkeries or other kinds of aesthetic schools that maybe 0.5% of the population or 0.05% of the population might go to. But other than that, for most of us, there simply doesn't seem to be a place or a way for us to talk about, explore, gather information around, and begin to form some firm and solid convictions and ideas about this business of the human soul. It just isn't discussed a great deal. Not even in college courses in philosophies is it discussed a great deal. So let's discuss it here, shall we? Let's talk about first my understandings, the awarenesses that I was given in my conversations with God with regard to the question of the human soul and what it is. I asked God, all these questions that I never received answers to anywhere else in my life. And I was 50 years old when I was asking these questions. Is there really such a thing as the human soul? Is it just a phrase we use, just a thought that we have, just an idea that passes through? Or is it in fact an actual reality? And if so, A, where is it? And B, what is it? And C, why is it? Why does it exist? So God assured me in my conversations with God that, yes, I have a soul, all of us do. So, there was no question about that for me after I had my interaction with the divine, that all of us, in fact, have what we call in our languaging a soul. A soul, I'm told, is a package of energy, to put it in simple terms. It's just a conglomeration of energy. It's a collection of the divine energy, the fundamental energy, the basic raw energy of the universe, which is in fact the energy of the divine itself. It is the essential energy, the primal energy, the basic energy. And that energy is sometimes called the energy of God, that which God is, that God is in fact the sum total of all of that energy, and that what God has done is distribute, if I could put it that way, just in human terms, distribute its energy across all the known realities that exist in ultimate reality, all the known individual expressions of that ultimate reality, distribute that energy across all those realities, all those manifestations, if I could put it that way. And by distributing that energy and placing that energy inside of everything that exists, that which we call God, divinity itself, could express itself in, as, and through all of creation. In fact, that was the beginning of all of creation. How could I put this? Explosion of energy? I mean, physicists call this, cosmologists call this the Big Bang theory. When the single point of energy, smaller than the head of a pin, just exploded. And through the process of that explosion, placed itself inside of all the physical manifestations that resulted from that explosion. So that's a simple way of saying that everything that is made up of God, or that primal energy. So what we have referred to, what we have come to call the human soul, is that aspect of divinity which resides within each and every living thing. And by the way, that would mean everything. Just to take a side point, when I say every living thing, I mean everything altogether, because there is nothing that is not living. If we define life as that which is in motion, that which is standing still, doing nothing, static, would not be alive. But in fact, in all of physical reality, there is nothing that is standing still and doing nothing. Everything is in motion. So where there is motion, there is life, because life and motion are the same thing. That is, life is energy in motion, okay? So everything is alive to the degree that it is made up of tiny component parts that are constantly in motion, moving around each other at insane speeds relative to their size to create movement of energy such that it produces what appears to us to be physical manifestations or physical realities in the physical universe. The only difference between one form of life and another form of life, one conglomeration of moving energy and another conglomeration, has to do with the degree of consciousness that each of those manifestations demonstrate. So consciousness is the key element and in life itself. And consciousness is another word to describe a certain aspect of the energy, a certain way that the raw energy of life vibrates such that it begins to, I'm going to use an interesting phrase here, attract, as a magnet would, certain other aspects of the essential energy, and like a magnet that you would hold over shavings of, iron shavings or shavings of metal on a piece of paper, would attract that essential energy to it in a process of interactive merging of all the energies of life that proceed from the source that I call God. Now that's a lot of words. That means essentially in simple language, God is in us and we attract even more of that which is God, higher and higher quantities, could I put it that way, of divinity's wisdom, awareness, understanding, consciousness, and actually its highest element, its highest characteristic, its highest self. Larger and larger quantities of that attracted to us, depending on how powerfully we use the magnet that we call our souls.